Senate Bill 552, a bill relating to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, mandatory disclosure of public employees' position and salary information exceptions, reported from the Committee on General Laws and Technology with a substitute.
The senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. The senator from Chesapeake.
Mr. President, I believe there's a floor amendment.
Yes.
And I would move waiving the reading of the floor amendment.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the reading of the floor amendment be waived? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The reading of the floor amendment is waived. The senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Mr. President. And now I move adoption of the amendment and speaking to that motion.
Has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the floor substitute drastically reduces the umbrella of people covered under this exemption to FOIA. It would pertain solely to law enforcement officers with the adoption of this amendment. That's it.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson. Would the senator from Chesapeake yield for a question?
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
I would ask the gentleman, we had a conversation in committee about whether or not this bill would apply to sheriffs, chiefs of police, and people in a supervisory aspect. And my question would be, I can't seem to find the floor amendment, but have they been eliminated from the scope of this bill?
The senator from Chesapeake.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I would say no, they have not under this floor amendment. It pertains to law enforcement officers and their training records as defined in 9.1-101, and fire marshals as defined in that section of the code. I imagine would indeed cover sheriffs and chiefs of police.
Further question, Mr. President.
Yield for an additional question.
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
I would ask the gentleman, is this simply dealing with training records, or is this dealing with salary information, or both?
The senator from Chesapeake.
Mr. President, I answer the gentleman, it's just with training records and their names. It has nothing to do with salaries.
Senator from Fairfax.
With the adoption of the amendment, the whole salary thing was taken out.
Final question, Mr. President.
Yield for an additional question.
I yield.
He yields, Senator.
I apologize. I now have this. So basically, this no longer has anything to do with salary. It solely has to do with training records.
The senator from Chesapeake.
Mr. President, I answer the gentleman and names. Not just training records, but also the names of those law enforcement officials.
Second final question, Mr. President.
The gentleman yield for an additional question.
I'd love to.
He yields, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in other words, the names of the person receiving the salary is now redacted.
Senator from Chesapeake.
I believe that's accurate, yes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator.
I thank the gentleman.
Thank you, Senator. The junior senator from Loudoun, Senator Wexton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would the patron yield for a question?
Yield for a question.
Be delighted.
He yields, Senator.
Mr. President, I would inquire of the patron whether the law enforcement officers covered under this section still include animal control officers, lottery board officers.
The senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Mr. President. As long as they have arrest powers as defined in that section of the code, they would be included.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is,
Mr. President.
The senator from Fairfax City.
And Mr. President, again, I apologize for trespassing on the body's time. Speak against the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I thank the gentleman for scaling back this measure somewhat, although I'm not clear how much it was scaled back. But I'm very worried that when this afternoon is over, we will have taken a significant bite out of FOIA. And I understand that there's concerns that people in law enforcement may be subject to certain targeting and certain to.
Mr. President.
The senator from Hanover.
Parliamentary inquiry. Are we not just talking about the acceptance of the floor amendment?
That's correct, Senator.
I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The question is, shall the floor amendment be agreed to? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The floor amendment is agreed to. The senator from Chesapeake.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I'd move the bill be engrossed and passed to its third reading.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 737,